have a My Life, My Story presentation. And I know you're going to enjoy this. This is Mike. Mike is going to tell us about his life full of adventures. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. So it's all yours.
Okay. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And you actually, by doing this, you made me go through all my old pictures. And in the end, I relived my life again and that's through the pictures. And so that was a wonderful time. When we reach this point in our life, us people, we all have a wonderful story. So I can't wait to hear all yours too. How many people have gone to Antarctica? Anybody? As a tourist or something? There's one there. Is that it? Oh, there's another one there. You've been to Antarctica? Good. Good show. Good show. Okay. Well, let me see if I can work this thing. Huh. Oh, wait a minute. Here. We'll get it. Don't worry. I was born in Detroit. So there's Detroit, and this is sort of a recent photo. You can see the Renaissance Center. It was the tallest building when I grew up there. And that's the Detroit River. On the other side is Canada. And this is the baseball park. The new one, the old one would be out of the picture. Anyway, I was born there, I grew up there, I graduated from high school in 1960. And I'm like many other people. When I grew up, I had all the goals that everybody had. I went to college at night, I got married, I had kids, I had a house in the suburbs, I had a car in the garage, I took the kids camping, took them down to Disney World for spring break, and pretty soon they went off to college and the house was empty. And I was running up to about 50 years old at that time, and I was saying to myself, wow, what happened? I mean, it went by in a blur. And I'd never got a chance to do what I wanted to do. So I thought about what I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to travel around the world. I had traveled around the United States and stuff. Doggone that control booth. Speak up more. Okay. So I hatched a plan to go traveling around the world. And the way I decided to get a job overseas. And then I would travel. It would be very simple. And so, while I was applying for jobs, and while I was waiting, I went on a lot of road trips around the country. And that means back, this means forward. So somebody told me I could get a job in Alaska if I went to Seattle. And around the middle of May, I could get a job on a ship. So I did. And there I am helping on a ship. I worked all my life mostly behind a desk, so I wanted to do something different. So I was a help. I did work construction for a short time, but just to give you an idea how big this ship is, it's a pretty big ship, as you can see. So we got it out of the dry dock, and we got it in port, and we were working on it for about 30 days. And they made me the engineer because they figured out I knew a lot about electricity and mechanical things, and I knew refrigeration. So they made me the engineer. Eventually we left Seattle and we sailed up to Bristol Bay, Alaska, right here, north of the Aleutian Peninsula. We were going to do salmon tendering. So I'm going to explain salmon tendering to you. This is Bristol Bay, and these are all these rivers that flow into Bristol Bay. Back here is like a wetlands, rainforest. You couldn't get back there unless you had a canoe and a helicopter, but it's pristine, and all the salmon, capital A, sockeye salmon, in the Northeast Pacific Ocean were born in these rivers, okay? So that's where your sockeye comes from. So they come back to the exact river they were born in. And they go up the river, upstream, and they lay eggs. They fertilize the eggs, and they die, unfortunately. But waiting for them at the mouth of these rivers is 1,800 fishermen. But don't worry, it's under control. So the Alaska Fish and Game Department controls it very closely. Here, I'll show you. Here they are flying over the top and making sure that nobody breaks the rules. They're allowed to catch about 50% of the catch. It's about 30 million sockeye, okay? Well, none of these boats here, they're limited in size. They can only be 35 feet long. And that means that it takes them all day to catch 20,000 pounds of sockeye. And then they bring them over to our boat. Oh, this beautiful fish. Oh, isn't it? That is the most beautiful fish. They average about 8 pounds apiece. And so they bring them over to, we unload them. This isn't our boat, but I couldn't take a picture of our boat, you know. I was on the doggone thing. So the same thing, they line up and we unload them. Now our boat could hold 400,000 pounds, plus we had refrigeration, so we could hold it for a little longer. And then we take it, when we're full, over to this processor. The big blue boat's a processor. There's 250 people on board, and they're unloading these boats over here right now, and they're going to grade the fish, cut out the guts, clean the fish, package them, and freeze them, and then they're all going to go in this freighter next door there. And the run runs about 45 days. It starts about the middle of June and goes all the way to the end of July. Here's another view of the processor. These two are waited to be unloaded. And this is when our boat's being unloaded. So this is about a 16-inch diameter flexible tube, goes down in the hold, and it has it's like a vacuum cleaner. It sucks all the fish up into the processor, and they process them. Well, after a while, the run quits, and we're done, and I go take the boat back to Kodiak Harbor, and we park the boat, or dock the boat, I guess you do. And then I turn into a tourist around I go, August time, what the heck? Why not go to Denali Park? That's Mount McKinley, tallest mountain in North America, 20,310 feet tall. Anybody been there? Ooh, nice going, nice going. So you know, when you go into Denali Park, you can't drive in, you have to take a bus in, and it goes in about 80 miles and takes you to a visitor center, and so on. Well, eventually, I went back to Detroit, and back to Detroit, and and I got a job on a ship, and we sailed in Lake Erie, Lake Huron, and Lake Michigan, and it was that's my ship. It was a Great Lakes freighter. It's 650 foot long. So this desk jockey's a deckhand on there. I had to tie up the ship. I had to untie the ship. I had to clean the holds. Anyway, there was a crew of 28, and we could carry 20,000 tons. You ever want to know what 20,000 tons looks like? Well, the next time you're sitting at a railroad track, except here in Arizona, maybe up in Wyoming, and there are coal cars on the train, each of the coal cars is 100 tons. Count 200 of them. I've never counted 200. I counted 160 one time. But we could carry quite a bit. And we're a short ship. The bigger ones were 1,000 foot long. So we sailed. Here we are. We are loading here. So we moved the boom out of the way. This is the unloading boom. And then this is a pile of limestone. And this is a big gantry. And these are all hatches. And they load us up to 20,000 tons, you know, and we take them somewhere. Most of the time we took limestone to Cleveland because the steel industry uses limestone for making steel. There's another time we're loading coal and so on. So eventually my job to Antarctica came through. You know, I don't know why I wanted to go there. I thought I'd get it on my resume and go somewhere else, you know, but anyway, they said, come on to work, and Nada made that. She did such a great job on this show. And so this is where my journey to Antarctica starts. It starts in Denver, Colorado. This is the office building of the contractor who's hired by the National Science Foundation to do all the things that the Science Foundation doesn't want to do. They want to do science. They hire this guy. He hires people like me. He schedules the food. He schedules the airplanes, the ships, everything. So inside there is about 500 people, the purchasing department, the HR department. And this is one of the department heads giving all of us here are going to go down to Antarctica. He's giving us a talk. We're going to be oriented. And we're going to get our shots up to date, too. So they fly us to New Zealand. This is Christchurch, New Zealand. And this is the Antarctic Center. The front part of the building is a visitor center. But the back part is where we go to work. So there's Mike showing us the parkas choices and the boots and the hats and all the things that we're going to need. The program provides the extreme weather gear. So once they provide, I mean, just to use, but once we have to go in the back room and try it out. And those 3 orange bags are just the extreme weather gear. But I have to keep out something here for when we land in Antarctica. I got to keep a parka or something. So the next day we get on the plane. That is a Air Force C-17. Yeah, it's a cargo plane. Has no windows. Those passengers aren't having fun. It's about 2,500 miles south of New Zealand to get to Antarctica. These are all the people. These are all my fellow workers. We're going to go down and we're going to get the base ready for the scientists. So we go in before them, and then get off the bus. It's a cold world out there. So anyway, that's McMurdo. Now I want to talk a little bit about Antarctica, so you're into the picture. This is what the world would look like if you could stand under it. Most of us don't. We're in the northern hemisphere. We stand on top of it. But if you stood under it, this is New Zealand, and we just flew 2,500 miles over here to McMurdo with this little hook here. It took us 5.5 hours to fly there by jet. This is Australia. Australia has 3 bases right across. This is South America. Most of the people that went on tours, they went down the peninsula. And the United States has 3 bases in Antarctica. We've got McMurdo Station, where we went to. And then there is the South Pole, where the Earth spins. And then there's Palmer Station up on the peninsula. It's a very small station. There's only 48 people can live there. And you have to get there by ship. There's no other way. The ship comes out of Chile. And the South Pole, you have to get there by plane from McMurdo. And the cool thing is, I took this job, and did I know that there was going to be 5 telescopes at South Pole? I didn't know that. But guess what? All the astronomers that had to go there, they had to come through McMurdo. And you don't think I cornered them and started asking them questions. Did you ever talk to an astronomer? I never did. But this was a chance of a lifetime. So I cornered them and started talking to them. I asked them all my questions, And so it was a lot of fun working there. What else do I want to say about this? Oh, I want to tell you about this ice shelf here. This is an ice shelf, Ross ice shelf. This is Rhone ice shelf, and there's more. Ice shelves are on the map, and the reason they're on the map, they're a mappable feature. They're permanent. I know the Ross ice shelf is 600 foot thick and sits on the bottom of the ocean. But now I'm going to talk about the other kind of ice, which we have, which is sea ice, which floats on the sea. This is a composite of satellite photos over years, because it varies in size. Every year it either grows or shrinks, but it never disappears. And so here we are in McMurdo. This might be 200 miles over to the open ocean. We got a problem. We got to get some ships in there. So we got all that ice. So we go ahead and get these icebreakers. Isn't that nice? They come all the way down from Seattle, and the United States owns 2 icebreakers, and they're and these are the ones, and they are operated by the U.S. Coast Guard, and they come down every year and help us out. In the northern hemisphere, they go up to the Arctic and work in the northern hemisphere summer. All right, got a little bit about Antarctica. The other forms of transportation, since there aren't any roads to speak of. This is our ship. This is our container ship. It comes in once a year with 400 containers. All our food for the year, all our spare parts, replacement parts, new construction material, whatever we ordered. And this is a research vessel. The United States operates 2. This is one of them that's coming in. Because there aren't many ports in Antarctica. They come in to refuel, get some food, change out crew, drop off their science. And you can get around on a C-130. Anybody familiar with a C-130? All right. These have skis on them. And so they land on ice and snow. When they want to land up in New Zealand, they raise the skis. There's wheels inside there. And sometimes the penguins inspect them. And so they get up close to the skis, look them over. And this is this is called a twin otter. It can get to places where the C-130s can't. And transportation from the airport's way out on the sea ice, remember, sea ice? And so we got this vehicle to bring us into town, and there's a very famous driver named Shuttle Bill. And this is Cindy, she drives the other shuttle. And so, all right, now I'm going to walk you around town. This is McMurdo Station, and this is later in the year when the snow melted. This is when later snow melt. This is the science building right here. And the science building has 3 kind of wings to it. And they were built at different times, so we call them phases, phase 1, so on. Phase 1 is all biology, 11 biology and microbiology and marine biology laboratories. There's the lab manager, there's conference rooms, there's storage for beakers. And then this is phase 2, it's earth sciences, such as the ozone, volcanoes, glaciers, fossils. And this is the aquarium. We'll talk more about the aquarium in a little while. I want to walk you around town, that's right. This is the big building with the dining room and the kitchen. This is where we eat. And there's 60 dormitory rooms in here too. The barber shop, the store, the TV station. Every dorm room has a TV, and the weather department channel is always on your TV in your room. Across the street is the red roof building. That's the clinic. There's doctors, such there. The red and white stripe building is the fire station. And let's see. These are all dormitories over here. And these 2 are dormitories. And there's 2 more dormitories over here. And this one's called California Hotel. You can check out, but you can never leave. You guys know that song? Wow. Cool. All right. So this is the power plant, the water plant, and the waste treatment plant. This is the chapel. This is called MacOps, which stands for McMurdo Operations Center. That's where the weather department is, communication to the field camps and the airport. There's the aircraft, people traffic control for the airport. This building, NASA is in this building. Downstairs, they have part of their tracking station. They track a polar orbiting satellite. I'll show you the antenna. And upstairs is IT. We've got hundreds of computers on the base. And let me see. I wanted to show you. That is the garage where they fix the vehicles. All the pickup trucks, the cranes, the bulldozers, the snowplows. A lot of these buildings are just warehousing. Some have heat, some don't. This cargo building, unheated storage. I worked. My work center was this building here. It's a facility maintenance building. That's where the plumbers, the welders, the electricians, and we all work out of there. This is science support here. The scientists get to use snowmobiles out in their field camps, so they repair the snowmobiles, the pumps, the generators, all the mechanical devices they have. Here's some more science support. They have all the sleeping bags and tents and the food, because they eat specialized food out there. They don't have cooks, so anybody ever go on a wilderness hike and get that food from REI, where you just add water to it and you got yourself spaghetti or something? So they've got all that there. Let's see. I know someone that worked in the chalet. This is called the chalet. It's the National Science Foundation offices in Antarctica. That's where the station manager's office is. Here's some helicopters on the heliport over here. 3 of them. And then this is the helicopter hangar where they take them inside and work on them. What did I forget? I know I forgot something. Well, I don't know. I don't know where that is. I don't think it showed up on this thing here. There's a gymnasium the Navy left us. Oh, these oil tanks are 2 million gallons each. So there's 8 million gallons right there. We use about 6 million gallons a year, so we have a little spare. We don't use it all. You know, we refuel ships and planes, and then the power plant uses some, and the trucks use them, and the diesel vehicles. So let's see. I'm going to talk a little bit about a little science. Remember I told you NASA had this antenna? It's up behind town on a hill, and it's inside of there is a 30-foot diameter parabolic antenna that tracks polar orbiting satellites, and it's bigger than it looks. It's quite big. You can. That's my buddy Ernie, and I'm inside the greenhouse there. Now the greenhouse isn't too important in the summer because the planes come in every week and bring all kinds of fresh fruit. But in the winter, we have no flights for 6 months, so we can grow enough hydroponic tomatoes and lettuce, and so on, to get one salad per person per week. That's a fresh salad. I mean, there's canned and frozen vegetables and food. This is my room. In the wintertime, we don't get a roommate, so I get this whole room to myself, and it has 2 bunk beds in it. I took that one apart and made a little workbench out of it because I was doing some projects. You have time to do that. But in the summer, there's actually 2 bunk beds. There could be up to 4 people in there in the summer. And so it's a lot of fun in the summer. Yeah, it's a nice room. There's our chapel. And let's see. Okay, a little science, a little bit. This is a marine biologist and his diver friend. Now, they go out on the sea ice, and that's why I talked about sea ice, so you all know. And they cut a hole in the ice. It could be 20 foot thick. And they put a hut over the top of it. And they go down and they dive for specimens down in below. And they bring them in and they hold them in the aquarium. Here's a diver bringing back some stuff. And there's one of the tanks in the aquarium. And there's my buddy John looking in. And there's a bunch of tanks in there with all kinds of specimens and stuff. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, yeah. This is a balloon that's going to go up in the ozone. And this lady right here, she's a scientist. She's holding an instrument package. And when that balloon gets up in the ozone, which is what, 15 miles or something, that instrument package is going to send back signals that's going to tell them a lot of data about the ozone. And let's see. Oh, wait a minute. Don't want to go too fast. All right, this is an ice core. And the reason I'm bringing up ice cores is here's a little diagram over here that shows you on Antarctica, there is an ice sheet. And in some cases, it's 2 to 3 miles thick. But that ice sheet didn't grow yesterday. It took millennium, took hundreds and thousands of years of layers and layers and layers of snow and ice that came down. And that snow and ice it carried things from the atmosphere. There might have been a volcano on the other side of the world, and they blow all that stuff up in the atmosphere, and it might have circulated around the world and landed in Antarctica. Volcanoes, all kinds of Earth events over hundreds of thousands of years. And so they can core in that ice and pull out these ice cores, and they can date it. They can tell how old it is, and then they can study the stuff that's in there and tell you a whole lot of stuff about the history of our planet. But the most important thing lately is air bubbles trapped in there, because a 50,000-year-old air bubble is the atmosphere 50,000 years ago. And that's how they know the CO2 is increasing on our planet. So my job, and don't laugh, I was a refrigeration technician. And so I had to take care of those ice cores. I had to keep them at 36 degrees. When I first arrived there in 1994, in my freezer was ice cores that were 50,000 years old. I left 16 years later, and in my freezer were over 100,000 years old ice cores. And I read lately on the internet that they're drilling down and getting ice cores 300,000 years old. And they're going for 1 million. They're going for 1 million years old. So we're going to have a lot of history of our planet. All right, that's my desk. I have a lot of manuals for all. I have 400 pieces of equipment on there, surprisingly. Not all of it breaks. Most of it's pretty good. This is a piece of. This was a bad day. It was cold out there, and this thing came back, and they wanted it fixed. But anyway, I finally talked them into taking it indoors where I could work on it. And this is the baker's freezer in the kitchen, and it quit, so I had to do some work on it. Now, the reason I'm showing you this picture is very important. This is the radiation lab. This is one of the labs in the biology wing. Scientists, the biologists love to use isotopes to do measurements of all kinds of, any biologists here? They measure all kinds of happenings. So they told me when I went in there, well, first of all, the refrigerator, I asked them why you didn't throw it away. Well, it's radiated, and it has to go to rad waste. And rad waste is hugely expensive, especially a refrigerator. So they said, please fix it. So okay. Now, they said it's not dangerous in there, but you should wear goggles, a face mask, gloves, a lab coat, and don't take your tools out when you're done because we have to swipe them, which means they have to test them for radiation. So I finished the job. It's running right now. It's been running for a week, and I've got all my stuff still hooked up in case there's some problem, but there wasn't. But I took a picture of my equipment because it was my favorite stuff. This is my favorite vacuum pump, my favorite meter, my favorite scale, my favorite gauges. And why are they my favorite? They're the most accurate I own. There's $400 worth of Freon in here. So I took a goodbye picture just in case I never saw it again. Fortunately, it checked out and I got them back. So, not always easy. Oh, 25% of my job was ordering parts because nobody else ordered them. So I had to track parts. I had to predict parts. They're a year and a half away. They come on a ship. By the time I order it, the ship's a year away. And so I have to predict what I'm going to need. I'm going to have to store them and track them. And I had a budget. And oh, God, life was great. So this is, isn't working fun? Aren't you glad you're retired? So this is the attic of the science building. And I stored some parts up there that were for the science building. This is all the cooks. One day I was in there fixing something in the kitchen, and Sally, who was the executive chef, she had all the cooks from all the shifts together. There was breakfast, lunch, dinner, midnight, and she was showing them a menu. These are all sauce chefs for each shift. And so I asked her to take a picture of all of us together. So this is an environmental room in the science building. There's 4 of them, and then when scientists would come down, I would ask them what temperature they want their environmental room set at, and they would always want 1 degree Celsius. So they would set up a little lab in there and use the environmental room as a way. The temperature. A lot of the science they're doing is temperature related in Antarctica. So guess who has to give them temperature? And okay, so there's that dome way up on the hill. This is a frozen food warehouse. There's 1 million pounds of food in here. It's all frozen. There's 1,000 pallets. They each weigh 1,000 pounds. And most of the year, it's below -20, no problem. But in the summer, the sun shines 24 hours a day. The temperature rises above 0. That's why we call it summer. It's above 0. So it even gets up to +20 some days. So I got to turn on the refrigeration and maintain all their food in there. I got one of the units out right now. I got it indoors. I'm working on it. So there's 10 units on there. So that's my job. I'm going to talk about what we do in our spare time. You can go over and check out some cross-country skis. Just check them out. You don't have to bring your own down. You can also check out some musical instruments. That's my friend John. He plays the tuba. And this is a Boy Scout that came down with a science program, and he also played the tuba. So they had to share the tuba together. But there's guitars and whatever you want. And this is a yoga class in the winter. This low population in the winter. And this is an astronaut. This guy is cool as anything. His name is John Grunsfeld. He's an astronaut. He's been in space 5 times. He came down And Vernon, he came down with a science group, and I got a chance to talk to him. He was pretty sharp. He worked on the Hubble 3 times. What else did he do? Let's see. He flew on 5 shuttle missions. He worked on Hubble. He was an MIT grad. He was the NASA chief scientist for a while, and he's a great guy. He's a super guy. Fun to talk to these people. So a lot of DVs came down, distinguished visitors, admirals, senators, princes, This is the Amateur Radio Club. This is Sunday morning. This is the dining room, windows in the dining room. And we just had a meeting with our brunch, and we are going to go up to the ham shack. And I still remember all these people. This is Kimber. She's from Indiana. She was the IT help desk. This is Steve Petritis. He's a mechanic in the power plant. He's from Alaska. This is my buddy Ernie. Ernie is from the New England area. He's a 30-year ham. He's a great guy. And Mike Poole, he's from California. He worked there's a bunch of people that work in the warehouses. They're called supply people. They keep track of all the stuff. And these 2 guys are from the New Zealand base, which is about a mile away. There's a road between our bases. They came over. I forgot their names, but they were great guys. We're going to go up. They have a great ham shack over there, too. This is my buddy Don. Don and I were roommates one time. He's from Oregon. And so ham radio was one of my little hobbies. This red and white building is the ham shack. And it's not big, but it's insulated really well. It doesn't take much energy to heat it. That's Ernie messing around with the antenna. This antenna, we had a rotating motor on it, to rotate it. But it was so cold, the oil got hard, and it wouldn't rotate. So we put heaters and insulation on it to try to use the doggone thing. So we had a lot of fun with that. And then this is inside. It's only about 8 by 8, but it's all we need. Can you see okay over there? So this is a summer day. A storm will blow in. And the next thing you know, you'll need your parka, because summer, remember summer, it's above 0. And so it'll just blow in on you, and you better be prepared. All right, I want to talk about this. This is one of those 2 million gallon oil tanks right here. And this is an old tank. They were supposed to tear it out. But they decided to use it for a warehouse, so they cut a hole in the side and put a door on it and used it as a warehouse for a while. But this big storm came, 100-mile-an-hour gusts, blew the door down, and blew the top off. Here's the top sitting there like a piece of crumpled Kleenex. I mean, that's a storm. It's really, you got to stay indoors on those. All right, this is all the people that are going to stay the winter of 2007. When the summer people left, finally, this is what's left, about 150 people. And about a week after they left, we took our picture. We had a big picture taken. This is the station manager right here on the end. This is me. And I know a lot of these people. Here's my buddy, Don Brogan. He was station manager a few years later. Ernie's there. This is the National Science Foundation babysitter. And this is Wayne. And we're going to talk about Wayne when we get to New Zealand, because he lives in New Zealand. He's a cool guy. So, behind there, that's the mountain range is about 50 miles away. It's a 12,000-foot mountain range called Trans-Antarctic Mountains. And this is a famous historic hut called Scott Hut. It was built in 1910 by Sir Robert Falcon Scott, commander of the UK Navy. That's when the British wanted to explore Antarctica, and he built the hut in 1910, and he had, the next year, he took 5 men and walked to the South Pole, 850 miles away, and planted the British flag. It's uphill and against the wind, and but on the way back, he died. He didn't make it back. He ran out of, there was a storm, he got blocked in, he ran out of supplies. But anyway, that's a historic hut that's still there. The next thing you know, it gets dark. This is a daytime shot in McMurdo. All you see is the street lights, and kind of nice quiet day. So in the middle of winter, it's 4th of July in the Southern Hemisphere. And so this is that big garage. They cleaned it out, they steam cleaned the floor, and we had our 4th of July indoor party. And these are a bunch of games over here, and the band is set up over there, and we had a good time in there. And so this is the band, and they were trying to imitate 60s music, so they're kind of looking cool, you know. And, and they're having fun. And of course, what's a 4th of July without a barbecue, huh? You got to have a big old barbecue. And this is the American, Happy Birthday America flag. And so the next thing you know, it starts to get light a couple months later, and we go home. We have to leave. Sorry about that. And we go back to New Zealand and drop off our parkas and our boots and our stuff. Those poor guys have to clean all that and sew them all up and get them ready for next time. And then we're in Christchurch, New Zealand. And there's the cathedral, and there's a sculpture. Now, the cathedral dropped to the ground in 2010 with the earthquake, so it doesn't look like that anymore. And so, sorry. And then this is a bunch of us out celebrating for a dinner out. This is Diane. She worked in the kitchen one year. Don Brogan, who became station manager later, he was a safety man. This is a couple. They're married. He's in the housing department, and she was in supply. And there's our friend Liz, who passed away. She worked down there for years. There's me, and I don't know her, but anyway, that's a bunch of us celebrating in Christchurch, New Zealand. Oh, I'm a tourist. So New Zealand is made out of 2 islands. So I took the boat from the South Island to the North Island. That's the Inter-Islander. And it lands in Wellington, the capital of New Zealand. And there's the Capitol building. The Kiwis call it the Beehive. So that's where they make their laws. Oh, and Wayne, he had this little airplane. He lives in New Zealand. He took me for a ride in this nice little, I like that little plane, microlight or whatever they're called, up in the air along the coast. It was fun. It was a great time. All right, well, in 2002, so I'd worked there in Antarctica 8 years, and they didn't get, a new contractor came in, he didn't get the contracts out, and we didn't know if we were coming back to work. So I went and got a job in Afghanistan. Now, 2002 wasn't bad because, remember, 9/11 was 2001. That was September. So this was March. It's only 6 months later, and it was safe. There's Afghanistan. It's landlocked, it's surrounded by, and where I was going to work was right north of Kabul at an air base called Bagram Air Base, about 100 miles north, 6,000 people there. Oh, this is where the journey starts to Afghanistan. It starts in Houston, Texas, at this hotel. About 200 of us are getting ready to go. We're waiting in the lobby to go into the auditorium. We spent a week in that auditorium. Every day we went there. We had physical background check, training. We had chemical warfare training, and so we had a lot of stuff. But then we got on a plane one day and flew to Frankfurt, Germany, and got on an Uzbekistan airline. I didn't even know they had an airline. So we got on there and flew over to. I ended up in Bagram. That's the post office near the airport and the base. Bagram Air Base is in Bagram Valley, and it's surrounded by 16,000-foot mountains that are snow-capped all year, and it's just simply beautiful. And there's even handsome guys there, too. This is my home. So remember the address. My address is YSB2. There's 1,500 tents that all look alike, and there's 6,000 people living in those tents. So inside the tent, I get a cot, a sleeping bag, and I bought a map so I could learn a little bit about the country. Well, we found this bookshelf, and we use it as a separator. The guy behind me bought a TV at the PX. He bought a DVD player right here, and then he buys DVDs at the bazaar. I'll show you that a little later. So this is our lunch. This day we got to eat our lunch in our tent. So these are like old sea rations, but we ate our breakfast at the dining room. We ate our dinner at the dining room, but we ate our lunch out on our job site where we were working. We were working near our tent, so we all came over here. This is, what does that say? Chicken with rice, not bad, huh? Pretty good. So you take all these packages out, and you add water in one of them, and you got a hot meal. It's really cool. My other favorite was jambalaya. It was pretty good, too. So this is the PX. It says right there, PX. It was the only PX in Afghanistan, and so this vehicle came all the way up, and I can't remember if a black SUV was State Department or United Nations. But anyway, he came up from Kabul because he wanted to get some American goods. It was the only place to do it. Probably wanted some Crest toothpaste or something. So, and there's my crew. I was on a heating and air conditioning crew, so we're checking out heaters. You need a heater at night early in the year, but later you don't. And we're checking out, well, in the summer. We'll get to that in a minute. There's checking out an air conditioner. Well, finally the units showed up. 1,500 of these units, one for every tent. Okay, and so we had to do a little alteration on it, and then we had to put these adapters on it. Those are A10s right there. You know the definition of an A10, right? It's a plane. It's a plane built around a gun. Basically, there's a big gun in it. You know, it's cool. And there's a couple of Afghani workers that worked with me. I had to meet them at the gate every day, and I had to be with them all day long. We went to the porta potty together. We went everywhere together. And so, I mean, we didn't go in, but but I had to, what do you call it, hang around them. All this dark tent here is the hospital for the base. It's 6,000 people. That's the hospital. As you can see, the Red Cross sign. Okay, and these are the occupant, where the workers in the hospital live in the tents behind it. And as it got hotter and hotter in the summer, the night workers were trying to sleep in the daytime. And I would define that as sleeping in your car in Arizona in the summer without the air conditioner on, you know. And so we air conditioned them right away. And there is a very happy nurse. We got something. This is a battlefield surgical room. We just got through air conditioning it. And this is the head nurse, and you can see her gun. She's an officer. Officers wear pistols. And the look on her face is because she now has to sterilize the whole room after we got done. Sorry. Oh, this is cool. You see this up here? Does that look like an Arizona flag to anybody? It is. Those guys are from that Marine base down by the border. Yuma, Arizona. And he's a Marine pilot. He's a pilot of this Harrier jet. And when I told him I was from Arizona, he gave me a special tour. That was cool. He's a cool guy. So anyway, I stayed there a while, and then I found a phone one day, and I called up the Antarctic program. And, I can never remember if this is a Black Hawk or an Apache, but there's a gun underneath the pilot. There's another one here. Let me show you. So the pilot doesn't have to aim the gun. It points in the direction he looks. So you don't want to wave at him. Don't wave. Well, the Russians that left 12 years earlier, they left a whole bunch of junk. That's a MiG from the Russians. There's some more Russian junk over there, all over the place. They just left it there. They took off. And then this is a Russian artillery piece. And this is what I had to use to keep no, I'm kidding. That was a gun they showed me. So I asked them if I could take a picture next. This is the bazaar. At the gate every day, every Friday, there was a bazaar. And our boss let us go down there for an hour and shop. And so remember, again, the ones with the rifles are the enlisted men, and the ones with the pistols are the officers. So there's an enlisted man, there's an officer. And they have all kinds of stuff for sale. Let me see here. This, I want you to look closely. See this? It says UNHCR. Anybody know what that is? What is it? That's right. It's the United Nations High Commission for Refugee. This guy was a refugee, the guy that has this little business selling these DVDs, 3 for $5. He came back to Afghanistan because it was now safe. This is a 1860 British Enfield musket, the kind that were used in the Civil War. I didn't buy it. I was just holding it. I just wanted to see what it was like. But the Afghanis were selling them at that bazaar, and there was a lot of people buying them because they're antique gun collectors. It's 160 years old. Why are there 160-year-old British Enfields in Afghanistan? I ask you. Well, turns out, back in the day, when England sort of ruled India, the Russian Empire was up here, the Ottoman Empire was here, and they were always squeezing on each other, right? They're pushing around looking for more places. Well, like England, they would make some friends and give them guns. So the Afghanis held on to these guns. And they weren't much use against an AK-47, but they, they used them for bird guns. They could put some gunpowder in the chamber down here, and they could pour some pebbles in the top, and it was like acted like a shotgun for dropping a bird, and they were pretty hungry over there. So I just thought I'd hold on to it, see how it felt. What these guys had to carry these around in the Civil War. Okay, so one day a job opening came in Kabul, 100 miles south. So I applied for it. They needed an air conditioning guy. So we're in a convoy and we're traveling 100 miles. It looks almost exactly like Arizona. There's nothing there. There's nothing. But there are some people, and they are Bedouin nomads. And this is, so now if you were a little boy born in a Bedouin tent, you had a lifetime job taking care of the family's sheep. That's their savings account. That's all the money they have in the world. The nomads are allowed to travel across borders of different countries because they have no political connection to anything. And they've been doing it for centuries. They have to graze their sheep. They have to go where the grazing in the water is, all throughout the Middle East. And if you were a girl born in a Bedouin tent, you got to take care of the goats and the lambs, or you could go get the water for the day. What a life living in a tent, huh? Tough life. Anyway, they got camels, they got donkeys, they travel around, they move all over. I'm taking pictures out of the convoy running at 60 miles an hour trying to get them from blurring. So now we're entering Kabul. This is the outskirts of Kabul. And it's not much, I don't know. I could never figure out how they balance those things on their head. How'd they do that? Anyway, there's camels on the road too. We passed the United Nations compound in Kabul. And then we went over to our base where I'm going to live. This is one of the guards at the front gate. A bulletproof vest under there. She's got all this stuff she's wearing, and it's hotter than the haze out there. I mean, no wonder she has a red face. I don't know how they do it. Out behind the base was all these tanks the Russians left. They just left piles and piles of junk. And one day I was walking by here. This is a display of captured weapons that this guy here with the black hair, he's a weapons expert, and these are officers, and he's explaining the captured weapons to all the officers so that they could understand what they're up against. And of course, there's the guy. Be careful of the air conditioning guy. He's So I found a phone, and I called the Antarctic program, and I wanted to get out of here, so I went back to Antarctica. So now it's 2002, and I went back, and I got a job in the power plant. So that's the switchgear for McMurdo's power plant, and so they let me run that. Crazy people. And there's our generators for the thing. Then they sent me to another base, that one up on the peninsula, Palmer Station. And that's the whole base right there, 5 buildings. And you can only get there by boat, by ship. And so we come out of Chile, Punta Arenas, Chile, and we sail across the Drake Passage, just like all the tourists have to do too. And then we get down there, and they didn't have a refrigeration guy. This is a marine biologist. She's dipping in the tank. She's getting some specimens, and she's studying them. Her husband and her are both marine biologists. He's the diver. He goes out and gets them, and she does the work in the lab. And there's me fixing a problem in the environmental room. And this is our quarters. The base has 24 bedrooms, each with a bunk bed, so there's only 48 people on the whole base. And this was just before my roommate showed up. The nice thing about this base, the really cool thing, Sunday is our day off. And if you take the training, you can use a Zodiac and go out exploring. Of course, you got to do all the things they tell you. You got to keep in radio contact, take some people with you. But there's islands around there with seals, and you can just, it's really cool. Sunday afternoon was a fun time. Anyway, I failed the physical in 2010 and couldn't go back to Antarctica. And so I ended up buying a condo in Sun City. I'm sorry, I don't have another picture. It's a Christmas condo, you know. So, and then I had my something to putter around with. And I met this beautiful, beautiful lady in Sun City. But she contracted Parkinson's around 2015, and I was her caretaker, and she passed away in 2020. And then, then I took a job at Yellowstone Park, so I could pass the physical there. And this is the pot washer I was fixing. And where I was at, what do you call it? Canyon Village, there was 450 employees. Nancy Young was over at Old Faithful. There was 1,200 employees over there. See, you had a lot of people there. We worked there the same year, and we went down to the Jackson Hole, and we went to take pictures and stuff. It was a lot of fun. And there's one of those pools. And so now I live in Royal Oaks. And see, that's a story. Oh, thank you. I want to introduce some people. There are some other people that live here, and they've gone to Antarctica, or they're connected to Antarctica. Dee Dee, when I first came here and met her, and we were talking, and she worked for the company that was the support company in America, in California, Holmes and Narber, a very large engineering, construction, and maintenance company. And they had partnered up, and they were part of the, when I first went to work there, ASA, Antarctic Support Associates, was the contractor. And Dee Dee worked in the office and always wanted to go to Antarctica. They just didn't let her. But you're connected to Antarctica, in my opinion. And Jim Miller, you were on a C-130s that flew out of New Zealand to Antarctica and delivered goods and people and everything back in the 60s. I want you to find all the photos, and we're going to do a show on you, because that's the beginning of the program. That was pretty cool. And Myrna, I met her in 2002 in Antarctica, and we've been friends ever since. And now she's moved into here, Royal Oaks, and she has some great jobs. And I hope she does a talk later once she gets moved in her apartment. And she's got some stories, boy. I tell you, she's great. That's Myrna, yeah. And I have a little thing I want to say at the end here. It turned on. I consider myself the luckiest guy in the world to be able to live my dreams and travel to places that I didn't know I was even going to go, and visited countries that I wanted to see, and eventually saw 34 countries and all seven continents. On the table near the door, there's some things that I put out there you can look at. They're kind of artifacts about Antarctica, and books of interest. And if you want to borrow one and take it, just let me know. And so I'd like to leave you with a short video. It's the auroras at the South Pole that was set to music. It's pretty cool. It's only about a minute and a half long. It was set to music by the scientists that took them. Oh, I think I have to open this up. There it is, and we'll start it. Oh, how do I start it? And first year, I was gone a whole year. And then I went home and I found out that nobody was interested. So I didn't go home after that. I just started going to Australia and just staying in places. And sometimes I go home. But one time, usually I get an 8-month contract. And so I'd have 4 months off to my next contract. And I could go wherever, you know. And one time, though, they couldn't find a replacement for me. I ended up spending 16 months there. I know, that was a long one. But so, I don't know. Out of a 16-year period, I spent 50% of my life in Antarctica. You know, so.
What did you say that building was underneath? You said something during the film.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's the South Pole Station. So he set the camera like right here, and then he let it play. And he put it on time lapse. That's why everything's moving so fast. Yeah.
Were the penguins friendly? Could you adopt one?
There's a problem with the penguins. The problem is, first of all, they don't come to McMurdo. They go back to the colony where they were born. If we see them in McMurdo, they're on their way somewhere else. They're on their way, you know, they're on their way. And the National Science Foundation won't let us disturb them. We can't go near them. We'll get fired immediately if we mess with them. You know, so we can't mess with the penguins.
Lucky penguins.
Well,
maybe just as well.
That place in Christchurch that I showed you, the Antarctic Center, that's a visitor center. In there, they have penguins, and you know, it's a visitor center. And the girl, did you ever go there? The girl, she's really good. She takes you and shows you everything and teaches you all about penguins and stuff. Yeah, it's a great place to visit if you get there.
Any other comments around here?
Uh-oh, this is dangerous here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, where's that microphone? Go ahead.
I wanted to know what they do with the salmon eggs.
Oh, the salmon eggs. The ones that the salmon they catch. Interesting, you should ask this, a good point. So, the year I went there, 91, sorry, the Japanese had negotiated buying all the #1 salmon. And in the negotiation, they wanted all the eggs. And they sent people on those processors. There was Japanese people that took the eggs out of the fish. And there's a holiday in Japan where, you know, like we have Thanksgiving, you have turkey. Well, they have these salmon roe, and they mix it with rice, and they have like this meal. And so you're polite if you go to their house with a little can about the size of a planter peanut can of salmon roe. And so they took all that back to Japan. Back in 1991, that was $50 a can in Japan. And so I don't know what it is now, but that's what they do. They doesn't go to waste. Some of the eggs, there's fish farms. You know, they're trying to start some fish farms along the coast, and so they take some of the eggs and, you know, do that with it too. Yeah, that was fun working in Alaska.
Would you say that most of the people down there were adventurous like you were?
In Antarctica, are they adventurous? Yeah. Now, yes and no. So let's say there's 800 to 1,000 people in the summer, and 400 are scientists, 250 are support workers, and there's about 200 Air Force people. And there's a bunch of other technical things like the NASA and other people. Out of that 250 support people, I'd say about half of them didn't care. They just came for a job, and they went to the bar at night. You know, they basically just came because there was no jobs up in Idaho. You know, so they came. So, but then some of us were like real science freaks. I was a popular science freak. I wanted to see how things work. You know, I'd go have lunch with scientists. And let's see, what was that question really? Adventurous. The scientists go out in field camps, okay? Now, imagine a place bigger than the United States with no roads, no cities, no telephone poles, no nada, sorry. And there you are, you're going to be transported out there in a C-130, you're going to have a generator, you're going to have tents, you're going to have all that. You're not going to survive. So they send these survivalists down to work with them. They take care of them. And when you say interesting people, I met one guy, he had already climbed Mount Everest. I mean, he was a mountaineer, and he went out with these guys. He took care of their survival out there. So there were some interesting people out there, lots of people. I might seem interesting here, but down there, I was just a regular guy.
I had a question, Mike. During this video, there were lots of streaks going
Yeah.
across the screen. Was that satellites or was that
Most likely shooting stars.
shooting
But
stars?
he did a time lapse. So
Yeah.
you're just catching, real fast thing there. And the South Pole, there aren't that many satellites really. So it's mostly, it's going to be. I got really into satellites when I was working in Antarctica because there was these NASA guys. I mean, they were so cool to talk to. I mean, they're tracking satellites and stuff. I had a ball. I was the luckiest guy in the world to sit down and talk to scientists or NASA people or astronomers. It was like go. Now, some of my job was in the biology building, and because biologists love refrigerators. And so I was in their labs, and I was finding out. They would tell me why they needed something, So I was interfacing with the science quite a bit, So even though I was a refrigeration man, I was taking care of this stuff. It wasn't a mundane job like here. Huh? Sickness?
Did you get sick
Yeah. The first year I went there, everybody gets the crud. It's called the crud. They don't even know what it is. It's sort of a mixture of every kind of cough and flu and pneumonia. You just go down, you're done. And after that, I learned to wear gloves and not touch things. Don't shake hands, wear a mask. People bring down stuff. They yeah, you get sick.
Okay, I thank you very, very much,
Oh,
Mike.
thanks.
This has
Thank
been
you.
fascinating.
Thank you.
What a story. Yeah, and all of you, thank you
it
for
was a
coming.
fun
And thank you for Nada, wherever she is back there, for running this show. She did a great job as always. Come back next week if you can. We have Fred Dorgan talking about Ronald Reagan, a totally different subject. But that'll be BioBuffs, and I hope to see you here next week.